Welcome to Parentkind's panel discussion on how to be school ready for that all-important start to primary school. Parentkind is the UK's largest parent charity, and our mission is to support parents as they guide their children through their education journey and beyond. Many of you watching today will have children or relatives about to take their first steps into school life, and we want to help you feel informed, confident, and reassured as that journey begins. Each year we run our Be School Ready campaign, which includes a guide packed with real life advice for families. Thousands of copies are distributed to our members across the UK to share with their new intake of parents, and a link to the digital version will be posted in the chat and included in our final slide. This year we wanted to build on that guidance by hosting a webinar to answer your key questions about preparing for and starting school. And I am delighted to be joined today by three fantastic experts who will help us do just that. So, who do we have? Our guests today are Dr. Kathy Weston, one of the UK's leading experts on parenting and parental engagement. In 2018, she founded Tooled Up Education, a holistic evidence-based resource bank for whole school communities covering all aspects of parenting, family life and education. Tooled Up now supports 140 schools across 8 countries. We have Jennifer Wyman, founder and co-director of Bridge the Gap Child Mental Health CIC. It's a non-profit organisation providing mental health support to children and young people in the local community. With over 22 years' experience as an early years practitioner and emotional literacy specialist, Jennifer has dedicated her career to helping parents and young people achieve positive long-term outcomes. And finally, Sarah Anyan is a parent schools coordinator at Parentkind. With 16 years' experience in primary education and school leadership, Sarah brings both professional insight and personal empathy to the transition into starting school. Having spent several years as a reception teacher, she has a deep understanding of the early years foundation stage and the developmental milestones that help children thrive in their first years. Our speakers bring a wealth of experience, as you can tell, from different parts of the early years world, and we're going to explore what school readiness really means, how to support children emotionally and socially, what practical skills matter most, and how families can build strong partnerships with schools. So without further ado, let's jump into our Q&A. We have lots of brilliant questions to explore. So starting with broad readiness and practical preparations, I want to ask all of you, what does school readiness mean? And what are the most important building blocks parents should focus on? And Kathy, I'm going to come to you first, if I may.
Hello, everybody. Thank you for inviting me. First of all, I think that school readiness is about children's kind of mental preparation for the next stage, but it's also about parental preparation. So it's about making sure it's the start of a wonderful journey. You know, we would never send a child on any journey without having the right equipment and mindset and strategies to be able to enjoy and thrive in that new setting. So it's all about getting ready for that lovely next step. And a large part of that is about, you know, we all know what it feels like. It can feel really daunting, your child going to school for the first time, and maybe it's even the first time you've ever been apart from them. But it's making sure that we feel good, we feel confident, so that we can pass that on to our children. So the readiness is not just for the child, it's also for ourselves. And really, for me, it's about using the summer to empower your child. Even though they're very little, they're very powerful and they're very capable. And making sure that when you're passing the baton to that lovely reception teacher on that first day, that you feel good doing so. So that would be my kind of summary of, as a researcher, what I would suggest.
Thank you. That's excellent. Thanks, Kathy. Sarah, what would you add?
I mean, firstly, I couldn't agree more. It is absolutely the journey for the entire family that they are now embarking upon. And it's huge, you know, let's be honest. And parents, let's be really fair to ourselves. You are going to have an awful lot of opinions and thoughts and feelings about this as well, alongside your child. But ultimately, we're here because we want the absolute best start for them. So, you know, you want to think about some of those experiences they're going to go through and start talking to them about that in a really positive way. You know, name the school once you know where you've got a place. If you know the name of the teacher, wait until you definitely know the name of the teacher, just in case there are any movements of staff in different classes. But start talking to them about that, so that that child really sees that link between home and school, because that is really important. You know, we teach children about tricky people, but actually they need to know now school is a safe place. They are safe people. This is a positive thing that we are talking about. And I think later on we will talk through lots of other skills you can and things you can think about to really help you with that.
Thank you. That's a really good message and some really good tips there as well. And Jennifer.
Yeah, I again echo everything that's already been said, really. For me, it's reminding ourselves that being school ready isn't about them being in that place already. It's not about them being at school, being able to know all of this academic stuff. And I think so much of school readiness can be focused on, are they going to be ready for their sounds, and are they going to be ready for writing? What I will say is play is prep. So over the summer, play, and there are so many playful activities that we can do that can support the development ready for that academic learning. So things that focus on their gross motor skills, their fine motor skills, and encouraging their curiosity throughout the summer, and really helping them to feel emotionally secure. And like Sarah's just said, them knowing that they can go to school, and that if there's something that goes wrong, there are safe adults there that they can ask for help from, and that they are there wanting to help. So being positive about that, but also not invalidating the fears and worries they have around it either, and normalizing that, being ready for school isn't about being fearless. It's going to feel uncomfortable. It's going to feel a bit nerve-wracking, and you're going to have these feelings and sensations, but that's normal. We're here to help, and that collaborative approach, like we'll get there together. There are all these people working to help you. And I think that's really beautiful.
Thank you all. That was a fantastic response to that question. Yeah, I really love the point about curiosity and play there as well. Connected into readiness. This is a common question that we hear from parents. So many parents of summer-born children worry their child may be developmentally behind. And what would you say to reassure them, and what support can they expect in reception? Sarah, I'm going to ask you this first, as with your ex-reception teacher hat on. What would you say?
Thank you. Yeah, I really, really understand this question. Two of my children are summer-born boys. So first of all, we as adults all understand and grasp things at different rates. It's absolutely the same for children. They develop at different rates. Some children might be more physically skilled initially, or some children, they might be actually hearing sounds and recognizing letters. They will all be different, whether they're summer-born, autumn-born, spring-born. I think, it's worth just bearing that in mind. Also, school are very, very aware of that. All children come at a completely different starting point. They will be aware of their summer-borns because they might just need that little bit of extra support and checking in with them. So, school will be on board with that. If you have any extra concerns, sort of above and beyond that, I'd say, just highlight it with school when you have that initial meeting with them, perhaps when they come out to visit your child in your home setting. Just mention, they're finding this a little bit tricky, and school can then make sure that they're just giving that extra support in that area. It's also worth, if they're attending a nursery setting currently, having a quick word with them. Children are often quite different when they go to school or nursery settings than they are at home. So perhaps just say, have they noticed anything? Do they have any areas that they think maybe the child needs extra support with? And that could be something you focus on a little bit during the summer, set up obstacle courses in your garden, or play the chocolate game, where you dress up in different clothing and you try and cut a Mars bar. Don't try a solid chocolate bar, please. Be kind. Try a Mars bar or a Milky Way or something with your cutlery, or, you know, just fun things like that that you can support with as well.
That's brilliant. Thank you. I'm going to look out for the chocolate game. And Kathy, can I come to you?
Yes, I too have a summer born, July, end of July, and I also have a September born, who of
Oh,
course was a year older when he went to school. So I understand the disparity and the worry. And I have to say, now they're 16 and 19, and they got exactly the same results in their GCSEs. And I know it's so hard, but as parents, they will amaze you. They love being around even slightly older children, in my experience. They learn so quickly. And I think we can worry excessively, but I would suggest, as the parent of a summer born, I did tweak my parenting a little bit. I tried to focus much more on his confidence and capability, what he felt he could do well. So lots of kind of individual little sports, for example. So he felt he was never going to be the strongest, fastest, or tallest in the class like my September born, but he had other assets, other strengths, exciting games to share with other children, and really focusing, say, on his articulacy, his language, so that he could at least find the words to explain how he was feeling and doing. So I did tweak my parenting a little bit, but very much focusing on self-esteem, confidence. So he didn't feel he would be behind. I watched my language around him, even in front of teachers, making sure I'm not sort of, explaining away how he's feeling. That he's a summer born, so there's an expectation he wouldn't do well. So I think that they will amaze you. They need time, they need patience, they need encouragement. And I promise you that the accommodations that Sarah mentioned the teachers will make will be there. All teachers are looking at your child's profile, they care about their needs. The teachers are very much your partner in this. And they understand how to adapt the environment, their teaching, their approach to suit all children. So they're in very, very good hands, I would suggest.
thank you both. That's really great advice, and it's really reassuring as well. So thank you. So that gives us a really grounded understanding of readiness. I'd love to move now onto the emotional side, because this is where many families feel the most pressure and where we get a lot of questions around this area. So my question is, for families feeling overwhelmed, what are the top three things they can realistically do, say in the final weeks before starting reception? What strategies help children and parents manage nerves in that run up to the first day? And I'm going to come to you, please, Jennifer.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know where I disappeared to then, by the way. I just got zoomed out. I'm zooming back in though now. It's all right.
I'm glad you're with us.
Yeah. I would say try not to turn school into a summer boot camp. Like I think we get so anxious and worried about them being ready. We don't want to overload them emotionally with this school's coming, this imminent fear. It's about the confidence and the positivity that we put around that. So I would say normalize the emotions that are coming up for them. So because of our discomfort of they're going to be leaving us, that can feel uncomfortable, especially if we have got summer born. I myself also have a summer born. It is hard, but really ensuring that they feel positive about how you feel about it. And I think that's really key. But also, if normalizing and naming that, do you know, on that first day, you're going to be leaving mummy or daddy or grandma or granddad for the first time, and you might get some butterflies in your tummy, and that might feel a little bit uncomfortable. I want you to know that's normal, and we're in there with you. And I would look at practicing coping skills over the summer. So introducing a couple of little skills that they can use when those physical sensations come. And we can like Kathy was saying, like kids are amazing. If we introduce this early, they will pick it up. So it doesn't have to be anything big, you know, it can be something as simple as just being able to breathe in and out 3 times through their in and out through their nose, putting their hands on their tummy. It can be teaching them the power of positive self-talk. So when something shows up and it feels hard in that day, remember to tell your brain, I have got this, I am safe. You know, those kind of positive, we call them, they're affirmations, but we call them to children like power words that they can use. But also prepare them, think about the routine and use the summer to build that in. So often we'll think about the summer as absolute downtime, but for me, it's you can build such momentum in that morning routine throughout summer. Not we're going to get up and we're going to put our school uniform on and practice the walk to school, but we're building consistent routines in the morning and the evening, so that their body begins to know what to expect from their mornings. Because you can say it, but we want them to feel it. We want their bodies to know what's coming next and that it's safe. So building those routines and obviously the independent skills. Absolutely. Sorry, something's happening with my computer. I'm still here. Hope that's
Right, you are here. You're still with us.
Talk positively, but be honest as well, that there are going to be times where it feels difficult. That's okay. How do they ask for help? Because we're going to say, like, all these teachers are amazing and they're there to support you, but unless we give them the tools and the skills to be able to know how to share that and to know how that feels, then they're going to find it really hard to action that.
That's brilliant. Thank you, Jennifer. Such a good point. And Kathy, do you have anything to add to this one?
Yeah, so first of all, I've written a list here of lots of different things. I think as parents, tapping into Jennifer's point, we have to really watch our language around children. So I think if we start saying, you're going to be at big school next week, even that can sound a bit scary. So just sort of reducing that anxiety. And just by talking about the name of the school, or when you're in the car wave at our new school, hello, Mrs. Jones, you know, so making it feel part and parcel of family life. I also think that I would be using little storybooks, toys play over the summer. Peppa Pig has a book about going to school. Elmo, there's a YouTube video on Elmo goes to school and how he says goodbye. Bluey, you know, they all have a narrative about going to school. So tapping into a character that your child really, really likes, practicing goodbyes. So there's a lovely little video of Elmo in Sesame Street where he gets a bit anxious saying goodbye to his dad at the nursery gate, and the daddy says it's just bye-bye for now, you know. And I think practicing that, which means us practicing as well, we're watching our faces. If we're sobbing, holding on to the gate, the children might think, what on earth is going to happen to me in this place? And I know none of us would probably do that in front of our children, but there's a sense that we're getting used to that little goodbye, bye-bye for now, you know, that we can make up little family mantras and little sentences that can help with that. I once met a lovely parent whose child really, really struggled to say goodbye. And with the mum, we thought about a really funny way they could diffuse the anxiety at the point of separation. And, you know, the child ended up coming up with a little idea that they had to make each other laugh when they said goodbye. So this little 4 or 5-year-old was busy doing this, you know, saying goodbye to, they were thinking about, what can I do that's going to make my mummy laugh at the point of separation? And you can have a lot of fun with these things. Children are magical creatures. They need us to be imaginative and fun. And even those little things can significantly reduce any kind of anticipation of separation anxiety or the separation anxiety itself. I loved Jennifer's point about power words, and I would add to that and say they can have power stances. So they're about to go to school, you know, onwards and upwards, or I'm getting ready, you know, you could just have so much fun with that. And I think even having a little song to get dressed to in the morning that they make up or they can choose can be very, very helpful. So music can be interesting in the morning, but there's a routine, a trigger for what do we do next? And as a researcher, I would add that the meal that has the biggest impact of all on children's ability to concentrate, cope with their day, academic work is breakfast. So having a really lovely breakfast built into a nutritious breakfast into that lovely morning routine is the very, very best way to send them off, I think.
That's fantastic. Thank you. Excellent advice again.
Can I add to that, Sean? Because Kathy's
Sure.
made me think of something really.
Yeah, please
Like
do.
the stories is so amazing. And what we used to do quite a lot was make social stories up based around the child's actual school that they're attending. So some schools are very good at this, and they'll send pictures over of the cloakroom, the toilets, the uniform, where they're going to go on the first day, the school gates. But if you can make that together with the young person and really personalize the language in it, so it's not just, if you've got a special song that you've made up together, this is where we'll sing that, and then this is where we'll say goodbye, and this is what that looks like. That can be so helpful because they're visualizing it. And then that's such a connecting thing to do together. And again, it's just mentally preparing them for it. So personalized social stories, just get on PowerPoint and just pull it together really easily, but print it, laminate it if you love a laminator like me. But that can be really helpful as well because they're seeing that space and you're really building those ideas day after day, that repetition that's needed.
Thank you. That's excellent. Sticking with the emotional side, what early signs suggest a child is struggling with the transition, and how can parents respond if their child shows, for example, school refusal, separation anxiety we've started to get into there, or persistent worry in the first term? Kathy, I'm going to come back to you.
So I think even though it might feel like an odd place to start, we have to start with sleep quality. So I am absolutely astonished when I do research on this area, the importance of sleep. Sleep is everything. It's the building block for learning, for coping, for emotional well-being, for mental health. So I think that you start there and you try and make sure your child's sleep is going as well as possible and they have the best possible quality sleep. And you can iron out a lot of those problems with help or support or working on them a little bit more over the summer. So I think sleep is important. And then, sorry, I've forgotten the original. I was too busy distracted about sleep. What did you just ask me? Sorry.
So it's looking at the early signs that are struggling with
Yes.
the transition. Yeah.
Well,
So
if a child's getting out of bed a lot at night, starting to bed wet, saying, I don't want to go to school, so parents are adept at being intuitive and listening out for some of those signs of distress. And I think that, in terms of accommodating those worries, Jennifer mentioned the word validate earlier, validating their feelings. I can see that you're worried. I can see that mommy can see daddy can see you're upset. And let's have a little bit of worry time during the day, maybe after dinner. So not on the pillow at night, but after dinner, we might sit down and share our worries or put our worries into the worry monster. And that is a little mini coaching conversation for children where we show them that all worries can be dealt with together as a family. And we're hoping to reduce the sort of rumination on the pillow. So I think bring all those activities earlier in the evening, and using play, Sylvanian families, puppets, to explore their feelings, not at bedtime, but maybe over a lovely sunny weekend or over time, and keep an eye on it. So I think you begin with sleep. If their sleep quality is good, you have a reduced risk probably of sort of anxiety, getting a grasp. And I would certainly warn parents that in the build up to school, it's a bit like Santa Claus coming. Watch out for the kind of too much anticipatory anxiety. You've got to go to bed. You've got school in the morning. Just keep things on the low down. Keep it nice and calm and consistent.
fantastic. Thank you. And Jennifer, do you have anything to add here?
Yeah, so I've made a few lists of some of the things we see a lot at Bridge the Gap when a child is beginning to feel overwhelmed with school, and a lot of it starts physically, so with tummy aches. So getting a lot of tummy aches, complaining of feeling sick. You notice a change in their sleep. So they're struggling to go to sleep, or they're sleeping a lot more than normal. And some of that's really normal, that they are going to be tired once they start school. But it's just, again, being aware and keeping an eye on those changes. Any kind of significant behavior changes, so toilet regressions, anything like that, it can just be a sign of something to be a bit more curious around, not for us to panic around, but to just be more curious and notice and think, oh, I wonder what's going on there. Withdrawal, shut down, or the opposite, and exploding and lots more kind of anger outbursts, something to just, again, be curious around. And with their worries, if you're noticing that they are seeking increased reassurance from you for things, and like Kathy just said, really look at that kind of connection time in the evening. One of the best tips that I give to parents is build in 15 minutes of completely child-directed play before bedtime, where they're completely in control. It's not your narrative, it's not your, agenda that you're working on, but it's completely child-led. Those 15 minutes of completely uninterrupted connection time with you is so valuable as we prepare for sleep. And talking about that worry time, like we talk a lot at Bridge the Gap about creating a worry basket or a worry station. And again, it's empowering children to know what a thought is, what that might be, that thoughts aren't facts, but they can be worries, and this is how we can share them. And by sharing them, it might be that worry doesn't disappear. We use the term worry keepers at Bridge the Gap because sometimes it can help to get us out of our head. The worry might still be there when we revisit it, but then that's a sign that we can talk about it with somebody we trust. And I think the biggest thing I would like to say to parents is don't feel like you've got to fix it. Don't feel like you've got to go in with, but you'll be okay, or, but of course your friends like you. Really hear the worry so they feel that they have got that out of their system. They've been heard, because so much of this processing will happen quite naturally as long as they're given the space to really say it, explore it, and be heard.
Can I just add to that? Sorry, brilliant points, Jennifer. I like the idea as well when we're validating their feeling of saying, do you know what? It's okay to feel excited and a little bit wobbly. When we go on holiday, we're excited and we can feel a little bit nervous. So X and Y. And that point about reassurance is so, so, so important, because intuitively as parents, we think we can reassure them and everything will disappear. It doesn't work like that. And in the anxiety literature, they talk about the reassurance trap. So what you're modeling there is a lovely little coaching approach. So we listen and we validate, and that is often very much sufficient. So we don't want to overly reassure, because that can actually exacerbate anxiety, which is very odd to think about. So just finding a lovely, gentle tone where we're kind of with them on that journey rather than, offering to solve everything is definitely a good way forward.
Yeah. Thank you. That's really important advice. Really
I just add as well, it's okay to say that you're feeling that too. As an adult, that completely normalizes it, that, actually, yeah, I'm feeling a little bit anxious today, or, just a little bit, it's the end of the week and I couldn't really be bothered to get myself out of bed this morning, but we're doing it anyway, and let's do it together, and just normalize that it happens to everyone.
Well, they need to hear that.
Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you all. So we've talked about nerves and early challenges. I want to widen the lens now and look at the social side of starting school. So friendships, confidence, how children connect with others. So the next question, how can parents help children with the transition to school? So help children build social confidence and make new friendships. And I've got this one for you, Jennifer.
When they start school, they really are learning to be part of a community that's outside of their family home for the first time often. So I would say approaching it with that kind of sense of, again, that positive approach of there are going to be so many new people out there, and that can feel difficult to know how to navigate, and it can be a lot. And equally, here are some ways that you can do it. One of the biggest things that I think we miss is teaching children how to make friends. And there's so much that's natural, but equally in the modern world, we are seeing a decrease in children being able to do that. So just talking to them about how do you make a friend? You can go up to them, you can say hello, you can say your name, you can ask them what their favourite TV programme is. You know, you build little connections with them. So maybe teach children and practice that. I would say play is the thing that helps us build relationships, communication, confidence, and emotional well-being. Play is king, and know that how someone becomes part of that community is going to be different. So try not to compare your child to other children and what they're doing, because some children like lots of friends, some children like just a one-on-one friendship. Some people like to observe first. So you see some children who seem quite quiet, but they're actually observing, they're taking it all in, they're getting ready to be able to have their moment to use their voice and speak. And some children just need a little bit more time and a little bit more support, and that's okay. And I think just normalizing that, but really helping them. So some of the things that I talked about and I made some notes around was this is the time to introduce coping skills for them, especially you're looking at children with SEND as well. So you might be wondering if your child has additional needs, or maybe you already have a diagnosis. But this advice is really universal because we want to meet every child where they are and not where we want them to be. And that's how we get them to where we want them to be. So some children need quieter transitions. So if that's the case, like Sarah was saying, speak to nursery, speak to their previous setting, what seems to go well for them during those moments so that you can relay that to school. What are there any known triggers for that young person that you could share with school? So nursery might have noticed that when they go outside to play, they find that a difficult transition, or maybe certain smells can be uncomfortable for them that they've noticed. And making sure that how we're doing this and how we're building this using play, stories. Kathy talked about Sylvanian families, which I absolutely love, but that's small world role play, if they like to engage with that and really bring those coping skills in. And it can feel a lot for children to think about their emotions and how they might feel. But if we can help them to explore it through characters, that often feels much safer. So you can, you know, play with your Sylvanian families and it's so-and-so's little squirrel's first day at school. I wonder what they feel like. Are they excited? Are they nervous? Are they a bit of both, like Kathy said? I'm wondering, what do you think little squirrel could do to help them cope in that moment? Because we want them to go in and we want them to learn and we want them to engage. What I will say is, you know your children better than anybody else. You really, really do. So lean into their strengths and interests to really support them to be able to build friendships, but also to learn coping skills that they can use throughout school life. We can introduce these now. It makes a huge difference in the future.
Brilliant answer, Jennifer. Thank you. Lots of great ideas. Sarah, I've got one for you here. How can parents with children with additional needs or suspected needs best connect with the school to get support?
Yeah, I think, don't wait. Talk to the school straight away about any concerns that you've got. It's just you're building that relationship straight away and getting that school support in place right from the beginning. Talk to them about your child's likes, strengths, any particular interests that they've got, as well as any particular challenges, so that school can really connect with your child, which will help them to really support them in settling in, but also identify any particular challenges that they might need to work on. Again, if they are already in a nursery setting, find out, as Jennifer's just said, get get that information about how they are in that setting as well, so that you can speak to school and so that school can also speak to the nursery setting. Lots of schools will go and visit children in their nursery settings as well. So, they're really getting that full picture. Again, when they come out and visit your child in your home space, letting them see how your child is at home in a really, a setting they are the most comfortable in. As a reception teacher, that is really valuable information, seeing what toys they want to show you, or if they don't want to communicate with you much, if they just go off and play with them and you sort of see what they're interested in and how they go about things in their own space where they're comfortable. And again, with that transition, if school have got photographs available, if there's images on the website, or if you're driving past, all of those things will help your child. Parentkind do have a send hub with lots of resources as well. We don't claim to be experts, but we do have lots of things that we can signpost you to as well, as school will do as well. All schools will have somebody called a SENDCO. Teachers like their acronyms. SENDCO means a Special Educational Needs and Disabilities Coordinator. So they won't be the class teacher necessarily, but they are that person in school who's got that oversight of children and families who might just need that little bit of extra support or consideration along their learning journey. So find out who that is, and speak to them as well.
That's brilliant. Really thorough. Thank you, Sarah. So social confidence, connecting with the school, that's a big part of settling in. Another huge element is the practical day-to-day, the independent skills and routines that make the mornings and school days run a bit more smoothly. So my next question is, what level of independence is realistically expected in reception? So for example, toileting, dressing, eating, managing belongings. How do schools support this, and what can parents practice at home? And Kathy, I'm going to come to you first.
Thank you. So I'm not someone who's been a reception teacher, but as a researcher, I would say a lot of reception teachers hope that parents, I think, are participating in some of that skills development over the summer. And every child is different. But for example, can a child hold a knife and fork to eat their lunch? Can they put on their own coat? Those are lovely, lovely things that parents can really support that child with, which makes that lovely teacher's job so much easier. Can a child hang a coat up on their little peg? So I'm sure there are millions of these things, but we as parents, I don't think we should expect teachers to develop all of these skills from scratch. I think that it's important to wonder what we can do over the summer, and that includes skills like washing our hands. Does your child know how to wash their hands? They're going to be in a busy school. The teacher can't probably do it for every individual child. And can they help other children wash their hands nicely? So give them lots of sort of agency and empowerment. And I also think if I had a child going to school in September, I would use every single opportunity over the summer to build up their self-esteem and confidence. And it might be putting a coin in the parking meter. It might be pressing the button on the traffic light. It might be putting the hand up in the cafe saying, please, may I have the bill? Literally, all of those opportunities will feed into who we're passing over into that lovely school in September. So I think my main message is, don't wait for September. We as parents are children's first teachers, and we are incredibly powerful. So I think that start with where you are, and that does mean also that we do not put pressure on children, but we are empowering them, and children love to feel capable and confident. There is so much research evidence on children who do little chores at home, even if they're very young, because they love doing adult roles and jobs supported by a parent, because they want to feel competent and capable. And that might even be buttering their own toast with a little bit of support and help. And so all of those things are amazing. and we have the power as parents to feed into that skill development.
Thank you, Kathy. I love that message about building independence more broadly, not just school specific. And Sarah, what would you add?
Absolutely agree, Kathy. Children love being given little jobs that they can achieve. They absolutely love that. So yeah, let's take that and really run with it. And you're right. I think it was Jennifer that said earlier, your child doesn't need to be already working on the early years curriculum before they start. That is the teacher's job. We're just trying to build up their confidence and their independence before they start. So again, through play, really, really can't emphasize how important and wonderful play is. And you'll be doing this sort of stuff without even realizing how much it's helping your child. But little things like, when you've been playing with your child, asking them, oh, could you go and put this book back on the bookshelf? And little things like the spine actually needs to be pointing at us so that we can see what book it is next time. Just little things like that. Or could you go and get me a spoon from the drawer? Could you make sure everybody's got a fork? How many people are eating dinner with us tonight? How many forks do we need? And it's just little things like that really, really will help your child. And if we've got a wonderful multicultural society, if your family don't often use knives and forks, or if they're going to take a packed lunch in, just sort of checking that they've got those skills. So can they start using a knife and fork? Can they, if they're taking a water bottle in, has it got the type of lid that they can actually open, whether it's a straw, or do they have to actually unscrew it? Or, little tweaks like that might just add that extra independence and support for your child. And as a parent, big thing for me that I always say to any of my friends with a child starting school: lay the uniform out the night before so that your child knows that's what I've got to put on in the morning and can get on with it. Because if you've got a busy day at work coming up, or if you've got more than one child to get ready, or anything else like that going on, in the morning, if a child comes up to you and goes, am I PE today? Which t-shirt am I supposed to wear? And I have to admit, my children have gone to school in half PE kit and half normal on more occasions than I probably should admit. So lay the uniform out the night before would be my tip.
All these tips and ideas are just so useful. Thank you so much. Jennifer, I've got a question for you. So how can families build morning and after school routines that reduce stress and support a smooth start and end to the day?
Yeah, I love routines. I think the most important thing is to look, there's no one size fits all to routines, because everybody's family dynamics is so different. We've got different number of children, different ages. Some of us are working full time, some of us are on shifts, whatever it might be. So really take all of that into consideration, because when you're building a routine, you want it to be a routine that you can be consistent with. And that's really important. And it has to work for the child, and therefore it has to work for you so you can be diligent and consistent with it. I really love visual aids. I just think they are so fantastic. So when you've had a think about what your routine's going to look like, what order is your child going to do things in, and what time do they get with you in the morning? Like Kathy was saying about breakfast, can you make time to sit down for 10 minutes together? So once you've got all of that in place, and hopefully you've built in a little bit of time so they can put on their own socks and things like that, because that is, I know it's so difficult to watch them struggle, but if we can just let them give it a go, that's great. Then create a visual aid timetable. We do it in early years all the time, and often in reception as well. I would love to see visual timetables across the schools, because I think it helps so many children to be able to see what comes next. And again, PowerPoint is your friend here, or Canva these days. But look at putting it there, just like Sarah was saying about seeing the uniform, if they can see their routine and take that off when they've done it, turn it round so they can see what's next. So it's kind of, this is now, what's next? And just try and help them to see that. And if your child is somebody who really struggles with that, you can get portable visual timetables as well that they can take into school. So Tom Tags do a really great one. I talk about this brand a lot. They're really low cost. They are portable, kind of virtual visual timetables. So they can be attached to a bag on a key ring, but it's just got what to expect. So look at your morning routine, be consistent, see what works, what help. I mean, both of my children are adults now, but what worked for one didn't necessarily work for the other. So there was a little bit of trial and error to see what helped and what worked for everyone. But once you've got that, build that in. And then after school, don't question your child. I get it. Like, you pick them up, you want to know who they've spoken to, what they had for lunch, what did you learn today? That your child has been at school all day. They've used a lot of energy, a lot of cognitive skills. Actually, greeting them on the playground with, I'm so pleased, I'm so happy to see you right now. I hope you've had a lovely day. Tell them where you're going to be on the playground. Be there. Sometimes things happen, but if so, communicate that with school. And then think about your after school routine as much as you would your bedtime routine. Think about, if they're really tired, they probably don't want to be going home and doing their phonics straight away. They probably need a bit of time to decompress. Do they need some kind of sensory decompression? Snacks, always the snacks. Their blood sugar is probably going to be all over. They've only got little tummies and they only get a few opportunities to eat throughout the day. And just try and keep that calmness. They could be up there after school. You try and retain your calm, and vice versa. They could be really, withdrawn and tired. Don't panic about that. They're tired. There's a really great resource on our website, which is free, and it's Post-School Collapse. And it just talks about how school can feel afterwards for young children and simple things that you can put in place. So to help them kind of buffer that kind of stress of the day, which sounds ridiculous as it's stress. They've been playing, they've been learning, they've been having fun, but it's tiring for them. So look at all of those and really keep it kind of solution focused. I think for me is, if you're noticing that something's not working, try not to think this isn't working. Try to think, okay, what are we going to try next? Because there's always something else to try. Social stories as well, still bring that in. Yeah. Hopefully that helps.
That's great. Thank you so much. So once those routines are in place, parents often want to know how they can support learning without overwhelming their child. So Kathy, I'm going to put this one to you. What everyday activities at home do you think best support early literacy, numeracy and communication skills without turning home life into school?
Yeah, so it's a brilliant point. We're not the teachers, we're the parents generally. And I think that parents need to know that we are really, really powerful when it comes to creating a culture at home where children love learning and where we see school as an important place for learning, and we respect teachers as very important professionals in children's lives. I also think that parents need to know how important reading to your child is. It's a complete game changer for children's academic journeys and progress, and giving children access to books, to the library, just access to books, all sorts of books, different types of books, just as many books as possible, stories, as many stories as possible. And aligned with that is talking to your child right from the get-go, turning the pram around, is a game changer. We know from research, because the parent and child are talking, you're developing their language, you're giving them vocabulary, that lovely word Sarah used about the spine of the book. Don't be afraid to elevate their vocabulary. Even though they're very little, they can cope with big words. And we know that the quality of dialogue in a child's home is one of the biggest predictors of academic progress. So one of the biggest tools in our armory as parents is dialogue. just talking, chatting. But of course, not after school. We don't want the Spanish Inquisition. Like Jennifer said, we don't want to bombard them with 50 questions. Within general family life, how can we ask them what they think? How can we get their ideas on things? All of that are unbelievably powerful. Aligned with that are everyday moments. In the supermarket, can you go and find mummy something beginning with K? Right? We're not experts on phonics and graphemes and phonemes, but we can ask our children. That is fun. You know, we're doing lots of literacy and phonics there. Just saying, can you find me something, a vegetable beginning with K? Or can you find me a stick that looks like a curly K? Or whatever it is, we can tap into that through those teachable moments. Can we spot the numbers when we're walking down the street? What number's that? Oh, look, the numbers are going up in twos, you know, so we have all the power to do that effectively. And those are some of my kind of big tips.
No, fantastic. Thank you so much. So that partnership between home and school is so important. And I'd love to discuss, as we're coming towards the end, some practical insight into what parents can expect from school life. And Sarah, I'm going to come to you as our resident expert. Will the school have a PTA? What do PTAs do, and how can parents get involved? What sort of opportunities are there? So can you paint the picture for us?
Thank you. So they might have a PTA. I can't give you a definite yes or no. There is no sort of register for it, but they might have a PTA, a Parent Teacher Association. It might be called a PTFA, Parent Teacher Friends Association. Or it might be called Friends of, or something along those lines. Hopefully they will be visible in some way. So it might be that they're on social media. It might be that they have information up on notice boards, on the school website. If you do an introductory meeting at school, perhaps they'll come along, or they might have flyers out. They sometimes do refreshments, or they might even have a uniform stall going on at the same time. So really just look out for them. They are there to bring the school community together. They are also often heavily involved in lots of social, fun and fundraising events as well, which really provides those lovely experiences for school, families and community, but also raise really important funds to boost the school budget and provide sort of those extras to support children in their learning. If they don't have one, maybe you're the person that is missing. Maybe you're exactly what they need. Parentkind's existed for 70 years and we have been supporting PTAs. So there is an amazing team of community advisors. They know absolutely everything there is to know. So, you know, if school's just starting one up, or if they're not members, or if you're the person who's going to drive it forward, please do get in touch. They've got all sorts of resources, guidance, expert advice, absolutely everything you need basically to help you. And that PTA has huge benefits to children. You know, it really solidifies that link between home and school and the community. It gives children that sense of belonging. As a parent, for you, that's a brilliant way to be part of the school community. You might make friends with parents that, you know, maybe they don't have children in your year group, and you really have those extra links. You know, for me personally, I thought that was a really lovely social moment, being part of the PTA and making friends with parents that I probably wouldn't really have spent much time with if I wasn't on the PTA. And also it's a team effort. Just please bear that in mind. It doesn't mean you're going to have to suddenly give up your entire life and do everything for the PTA. It's a team effort. People should be dipping in and doing what they can when they can as well. Don't be overwhelmed by it, please.
Fantastic. Thank you, Sarah. That's really helpful. I've got two more questions for our lovely panel today. The next one I've got is what practical items do children genuinely need for reception, and how can families keep those costs manageable, especially with uniform, clubs and wraparound care? Kathy, I'll ask you to comment first, but if either of you have any other things, really important things on your shopping list, then do tell us. What are those practical items?
I think I'd probably be guided by the school.
Mm.
So I think schools do send out kind of little lists, and it's always a really good idea, talking about PTAs, to talk to another parent in a slightly older age group. They always know what you need and what you really don't need. So just speaking to a parent in the year above is really helpful. You might find them through, social media or Facebook or through the school, and they'll tell you what, and there's always secondhand things available, which are really helpful for parents. So I would just suggest you don't always have to buy things new, and doing a little bit of research in advance of buying things can be really helpful. So I think things like, I know it sounds silly, but labeling clothes and labels, I mean, I can't sew for at all. So it was always really stressful for me. So I had to buy the labels to iron on. And those little things can be stressful if you leave them too late. So doing a little bit of that prep and knowing you've got a few bits and pieces from the secondhand store or from another parent can really alleviate some of that stress. School shoes, every August, you go into a school shop, there's a queue out the door half the time for school shoes. So I think it's important that don't want to buy them too early because their feet might grow. But at the same time, just thinking a little bit ahead and maybe even booking a little slot in one of the school shoe shops to make sure you've got that signed off is probably a good idea.
It's really good advice. Any other must-haves before I
I
move on?
think it is worth just bearing in mind that things are so readily available these
Mm.
days. There's so much available even in supermarkets. So don't worry if you realise you haven't quite got enough and you need to pop out and add to
Mm.
what you've got. I would say just don't rush out and buy absolutely loads and then actually be quite frustrated that they've outgrown it before they've even worn it. Because I do think that's a lot of people's frustration. Labels, absolutely, and make sure your child can recognise their name on the label as well is really helpful. They don't need to be able to read it, but just recognise that pattern. Or you can get lovely sticker labels these days with an animal or some sort of a rocket picture, etc. on. Even if they could narrow it down to, well, there's 3 jumpers on the floor, 2 of them have got rocket labels, one of them must be mine. It helps. And again, I agree with Kathy. Try and find out from other people, and it'll be little things like, does it have to be a school book bag, or can they take a different book bag in, or am I allowed to add my own strap, or what about hair accessories? Do they have to be in the same colour as the school jumper, or and just see if there is a local, like a school Facebook group or similar. Or even if school or the PTA are holding like a stay and play event in a local play gym or something like that as well, and you can just find out from people or ask on your local Facebook group.
That's really good point. Connecting with PTA, connecting with parents further up the school for that insight, because you don't know when you first start, do you? You're just not sure. So before we wrap up, I'd like to end with a reflective question. But before I do, we're going to launch a short anonymous poll that'll just appear on your screens, and this is for parent feedback. And please do complete it if you can, as this really helps us as a team to plan future webinars. So my closing question, which is for you all, is based on everything you've seen in your work, what is the one thing you wish every parent knew before their child starts school? That's a big question, and I'm going to come to you first, Jennifer.
I wish every parent knew that brave doesn't mean no tears. I think back to, in the 90s when I first was practicing, and I used to reward children for coming into school without crying with a sticker. And I look back on that now and I shudder because I was rewarding them for suppressing their emotions. Let's not be scared of like the tears that might come, because children pick up from your energy from that. So if they're emotional and they're upset, and I've been there, it's hard, but it's okay. You don't need to fix it. It's just a response they've got. And from all these years' experience, what I have seen is the children that are allowed to have that little cry normally move through it so much quicker and they have a much better day at school as a result. So try not to panic and put your emotions, it's called emotional contagion, but they pick up on our energy. So if they're upset, they're upset. It's okay. Take a couple of minutes with them, give them a hug, let them know it's okay. That teacher, I'm only thinking about especially my daughter's teachers, were so beautiful at supporting her in that transition, that handover. They didn't try and shut down her emotions. They just, that's okay. Where do you want to be right now until this passes? They know what they're doing. So don't be frightened of the tears. And please don't associate bravery and tears. Don't say you be brave. They could be being very brave. They're going in what they're doing, and try not to reward them like I did for
Thank you.
suppressing it all.
Oh, that's amazing. Thank you, Jennifer. And Kathy, what would you say?
I would urge all parents to enjoy every single second of it, even the bad days. It is so fun being part of a school community. It's an amazing privilege that our children are in education. Teachers are amazing. I've worked with so many teachers over the years. They have so much care, compassion, stamina. And I think culturally, as parent, often I think there's too much criticism of schools and teachers. And we as parents, we have to see teachers as our partner. And that means we're not afraid. We're not annoyed when they tell us our child, was behaving in a particular way or they've been rude or they haven't, we listen. They are our partners and we try and collaborate always for the best outcome of that child. So enjoy every second of it, even the school plays where they forget their words, even the school trips that you're worried about sending. Well, just let them enjoy it all and try and enjoy being part of that amazing community of other parents as well.
That is wonderful, Kathy. Thank you. And we absolutely echo that ethos at Parentkind of working in partnership, schools and parents. Sarah.
It is a journey together. Echoing Kathy, really, it is absolutely a journey together as your family units, your extended family, but also with school. Teachers, people don't go into teaching because they don't care about children. They absolutely want the best for every little person in front of them. And, we love watching them grow and develop and go throughout school as well. I mean, as a reception teacher, I've sat in the year 6 leavers play and sat at the back and cried because some of those children were so shy and didn't want to speak in reception, and now they're up on stage and they've flourished, and it's wonderful. So please, parents and teachers, build those relationships, work together. It is all ultimately for the best outcomes for the children. And that's what we're here for, isn't it?
That is brilliant. Thank you. What a beautiful note to end on, and a great way to bring everything together as well. Across all of your answers today, there's been such a strong message of reassurance and partnership and absolutely tons of advice and ideas. And I know families listening will really feel that. So just thank you all so much for today. So just to end, we want to share a final slide of information with you. Here are the links to our Be School Ready guide and website hub. And please do sign up to our regular parent e-bulletin to receive news on all our parent content if you haven't already. We're sharing these in the webinar chat now as well, because I appreciate the slide here has some hyperlinks, but we will also be following that up in an email, and this will be included in that text when we share the video recording as well. So there'll be lots of opportunities to grab these links. If we didn't get to your question today, we really focused on those that are pre-submitted, but I'm sure there's loads more in the chat. We've had so much to say today, but please don't worry. We'll also be following up with a written blog that covers the themes from today and can include any unanswered questions as well. So finally, I just want to thank you so much for joining us today. We hope this session has given you clarity, confidence and a sense of reassurance as your children take this exciting step into primary school. A huge thank you to our wonderful panel for sharing their expertise. and to all of you for your thoughtful questions. So from all of us at Parentkind, we wish you and your children a really happy, positive start to school, and please have a lovely rest of your day. Thank you.